Hello, I'm Sensei Alex Kakuyo, North American contributor for Buddhist Global. Thanks for joining me for this episode of The Ordinary Buddhist. The title of today's Dharma talk is Minding the Weather. Before we get into that, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. As I was going about my daily walk this afternoon, I was struck by how changeable the weather can be. We're in that time of the year when winter is starting to fade, but we haven't quite got into spring. So some days it snows, some days it rains, some days it snows and rains. You just never know what to expect. But as long as we take a look out the window and dress appropriately, we're able to engage with the weather, engage with our daily life in a way that doesn't cause suffering for ourselves and others. Our minds work in much the same way. In the West, we tend to think of the mind as unchanging, as permanent in its nature. But from the Buddhist perspective, the mind both creates and is created by our daily activities. In the same way that the sun breaking the horizon can create a beautiful day for us to enjoy, a wonderful conversation with a friend can create a positive mind state. And in the same way that rain and snow creates for a gray, wet, miserable day, imbibing negative news from the media or getting bad news from our partner in a relationship or from our boss at work can create a negative mind state. Our minds are changeable just like the weather, so we must watch our minds and dress appropriately in the same way that we watch and dress appropriately for the weather. The similarities are quite astounding when one really looks at it. So understanding this, we as Buddhists can do two things to encourage a positive mind state. First, we can be very careful about what we do with our bodies, with our speech. When we engage in positive speech, when we engage in positive actions, hobbies are healthy and life-affirming, like exercise, like gardening, knitting, perhaps, or cooking. Well, working with our hands in a positive way causes our minds to shift in a positive direction. There's a sense of satisfaction that comes from a job well done, a feeling of goodness that comes from doing good for ourselves and others. The second thing we do when we understand that our minds are changeable like the weather is that we're very careful about what we allow into our minds, what we allow to enter in through the gateways of our eyes, our ears, our nose, mouth, tongue, etc. So how do we do this? Well, we're careful about the media we imbibe on social media or the television, which isn't to say we abstain altogether necessarily, but we pay attention to our mood and we realize that if we're starting to feel angry or anxious or sad even, well, maybe it's time to close the laptop or turn off the TV and engage in some other hobby. Something that's more healthy and life-affirming for our minds. When we watch our minds the same way we watch the weather, it becomes a lot easier to respond accordingly. Dressing in a way that refrains from causing suffering for ourselves or others. Amitabha.